alive. I feel like there should be like a song that I start off with, like an intro, and like an intro and an outro, like, you know, hello, this is Pardes Live, and we are here on Periscope and YouTube and Twitch. Did you know that I'm on Twitch? Did you know that? Hey Patrick, hey Rosemary, hey Colton. Hello, Haley Godove Bear. I used to be so from. I'm so from. Hey Raymond. Hello everybody. How's your evening going? We did it's a little bit late today because my phone wasn't charged, and as you know, I do all these streams on my phone. All my videos I do on my phone. I don't do anything with professional equipment whatsoever. So, oh wow. Send my regards to Mike. Bring back Mike Morrison. Send my regards. Okay, so, hey Janet. So, yeah, I don't use professional equipment, partly because I'm cheap, and partly because, cheap, in other words, I don't have, like, this whole budget for yet. But also, like, I just feel like I've been doing it so long. I've been doing all these, like, random, I've been doing all this stuff. Yes, cheap Persian. You know why Persians are rich, by the way? You know why Persians are rich? This is why. It's not called being cheap, it's called being frugal. Frugal means spending on the right things. It means collecting food stamps to feed your kids and spending all your money on a BMW. Spending on the right things. So yeah, anyway, I'm frugal. I'm not cheap, I'm frugal. I don't spend on professional equipment so that I can spend on beautiful lights for my place. And the other reason is that I just feel like I've been doing all this stuff. This stuff, like, unprofessionally or whatever, and I feel like it just became my brand. Like, I kind of like it, and I feel, like, comfortable with you guys. Pat, ever watch South Park episode on tacky cheap Persian? I can't believe they have a South Park episode about that. I'm totally gonna watch it. That's perfect. That's so perfect. I love it. Nate Murdoch said Bloomberg only got 2 pairs of shoes. He's worth $30 billion. I believe it. See, that's how people become rich. By being cheap. It's like, oh, you're rich. Why don't you spend, I don't know. People have such funny ideas of being rich. They're like, so you say something, you make a comment like, if you want to be rich, think like rich people think. And they're like, oh, that means I gotta spend all my money. And it's like, no, dumbass. You think like a rich person. Rich people didn't get to where they are by spending a ton of money. Rich people got where they are by, in many ways, some people, by being frugal, by spending little on certain things, by being calculated with their spending. That's what being frugal is. Very calculated with your spending. Okay, so, like, what means the most to me? Like, it means so much to me to go on this vacation. Everything else doesn't matter as long as I can go on this vacation at the end of the year. And so I'm basically gonna be, like, starve myself for the whole month so that I can go on this vacation at the end of the year. It sounds crazy and cheap, but guess what? You're spending on something, and that's something you care about. Thank you. I'm so glad that you all enjoyed last night's Periscope. Last night's Periscope was Jack Posobiec. He's a media personality. He's a reporter at OAN. He's very active. He's very connected in Washington, and he knows everything. So you know him from media, but what I bet you didn't know before my live stream last night, even though he said it, but that's not what he's famous for, unfortunately, is that he was in the Navy. He was in Guantanamo. He served in the Navy for 9 years. He was a Navy intelligence officer in Guantanamo Bay prison. And he basically came on my live stream last night, and he talked about it, and he told us, like, all these things that we didn't know, and all these misconceptions that people had. He kind of, like, broke them in half, and he answered some people's questions. So Joe says, last night was really cool, should have him on again, and would like to hear more. That's actually a really good idea. If he agrees to, then we'll definitely have him on. We can, if you have anything else, any specific issues that you want to dive into more deeply, like, we can ask him that. And by the way, if you remember Dan Gabriel, he came on to speak about his movie earlier. Dan is gonna come with us and do another Periscope, another live stream, because Dan worked in the CIA for almost a decade. So, like, just a little under a decade. And I was thinking, we did one about his movie, but we didn't do, like, a Periscope about his time at the CIA to ask him questions. And that will be really cool, because we will try to get Dan to lose his security clearance by asking a million questions. Janet says people don't know half of what Jack has done for this country. They really don't, because they think of Jack and they think of, like, oh, this media personality who does Periscopes and is really good at communicating with people and is, like, always on the news. Jack has a whole life before this that nobody knows about, and that was way longer than any of his time in media. Most of his career life was in the military, was in the Navy, and doing really important things, collecting intelligence, and people don't know about it because they're like, oh, Jack, he's like he's like this, like, Twitter guy. He's not a Twitter guy. He is famous, and he's got this really cool media career, but he did, like, so much before that it's almost like, it's almost embarrassing. It's like basically, it's like someone building, it's like, I don't know, like, it's like someone spending, like, their entire life to become, like, a brain surgeon, and then they took, like, a class in ballet, and then you're like, oh, hey, and they really got good at ballet, right? So then you're like, oh, hey, you're introducing this person. This person is a ballet dancer, and and he's also a brain surgeon. Which was, like, most of his life he was a brain surgeon, but, like, he took this class and he got really good at it, and he's a ballet dancer now. It's like, no, this guy spent his whole life, like, doing other things that are really important, but you just don't know about it because that's not media. And so it's just crazy that, it's just crazy how things become famous. Things that deserve fame do not get fame. things that get fame do not necessarily deserve fame. And it's all about manipulating the media. So yeah. And so yeah, we've had some pretty cool live streams. By the way, the batteries on my phone are dying again. There's something's going on with my phone today. So the batteries of my phone are dying again. So if this like shuts down, don't worry. Like if it shuts down, then it means that the live stream is over. And subscribe, like this video, subscribe to my channel, that whole thing. But if it shuts down, then you'll know why, because it's about the batteries. So okay. Yeah, I need to be like, I have like so much more to like figure out with this professional stuff. But for now, we're together in this home thing. And Felix says, can you charge and stream at the same time? I technically could, but this is way too far from any outlet. And nah, maybe, not really. Okay. Okay, why do I do this? Someone's asking, why do I do this? The reason I do this is because I like it. That's literally the only reason I do this. I have actually no other reason other than I like it. And it's exciting, fun. And I get to connect with people. And then I can build a platform and connect with more people. Okay, so we're talking about religion, leaving the religious community. This has been an issue that was so hard for me to talk about for like years. It was really, really hard for me to talk about, to the point where I didn't have friends for a while because I didn't have anyone that I was willing to talk to about it, because it was just such an uncomfortable topic. Religion is such an uncomfortable topic. Now I feel like I can talk about it. It's not even a big deal at all. Like, I'll talk about it with anyone, except maybe my parents. Well, no, I'll actually talk about it with my parents too. It just, Hippie Jesus says, do you like Jews? Yes, I grew up very religious, Jewish. I grew up, people don't like to say ultra-Orthodox, because they're like, oh no, I don't like ultra-Orthodox. That's a derogatory term. Okay, so whatever you call it, I grew up from. From is like the like ultra-Orthodox way of saying ultra-Orthodox. So, excuse me. So I grew up very religious, and I went to a school called Beis Yaakov, girls' school. That was my high school, and I went to elementary school called Yeshiva Rav Isaacson, and I went to a seminary called Seminary Yerushalayim HaChadash. It was in Jerusalem, and then I went to a school called UCLA. But anyway, people always hear this stuff and they're like, oh, these colleges, these secular education colleges, you went to a secular college and then they made you not religious. And it's like, no, I went to a secular college because I didn't want to be religious. And Nitty says, your voice goes up and down. Do you notice? Yeah, is it annoying? Because I can't tell, because I don't watch my videos over. I'll try to be like Mike Carter made a joke. What happens when the smog clears? UCLA. That's funny. That's really funny. Okay, so anyway, so I grew up very religious, and then I always wanted, I honestly always wanted to leave, like, but I never actually, like, wanted to, like, I never planned to, because it's too crazy. Leaving the frum community, leaving the frum community is, even if you want to, is not necessarily a good idea, because it's like taking a fish out of water, and like expecting the fish to know how to breathe, and you're like, but it's so great out here, it's a garden, and we're having so much fun, and it's happy, and it's like, but you're a fish, and you grew up your whole life as a fish, and now you have to live in the dry land and walk. And so like however nice it is outside of the water, if you're a fish, you might not survive. Maybe you can survive and find like a waterfall or something, and but yeah, I'm very glad I left. I'm like very, very, very glad I left. Not to diss on the community at all. My family's still very frum, and my siblings are they live in Jerusalem now. They're, one of them is married and has a kid. They have the most beautiful lifestyle ever. Like whenever I go there, I'm just like, I just feel calm. Like I feel like everything's fine, because it's a really, really nice lifestyle. But I'm glad for myself that I left. But also it was so hard. I can't even tell you how hard it was. So anyway, I always wanted to leave. I didn't think that I could. I always thought about it in terms of a fantasy that you don't think is actually going to happen, that you're not going to try to pursue in any way, but you always you think about it. You walk outside in the street, you see, it's just like a totally different life. The frum world is, it's like its own little world. And it's, they've got their own music, and it's not just the Jewish frum world. It's, there's Christian, I was talking to my friend who's Christian, like it's very similar in a lot of Christian communities, and Muslim, and this and that, like a lot of different religious communities are like this, so I'm sure you can relate. So it's like, it's this own little world. It's got their own music, their own literature, their own everything, and you're not really involved at all in the world outside of you. And you've got your own food, kosher, very strict kosher. You've got your own what else? Like so many different laws, so many just Google frum, Google FRUM, and Google like ultra orthodox or frum. I don't know. So people don't like to say ultra orthodox, so just Google FRUM, and that's and you'll see a lot of it, like very like keeping Shabbat, kosher. Those are like the basics, but then there's even more, which that's what makes it frum, and there are nice things about it, but the not nice things about it are why I left. And it's not that like it's not nice, it's just I just couldn't, I really just couldn't anymore. I was really just staying for my family, because I love my family and I don't want them to like fall apart, and so I stayed as long as I did, and then I left because I was just like, you know what, I'm like getting older and I have only one life, and I might as well just live it doing what I want to be doing, and I've already sacrificed over 2 decades of my life for this, so you know what, the rest of the life can be mine. Okay, so anyway, so it was also like very gradual. It was like I wanted to, so I was like always looking in that direction. Pass by in the street, pass by these restaurants, I would see these women with like wearing short sleeves like I'm wearing now. I'm wearing short sleeves. I couldn't do that when I was from. I couldn't wear short sleeves, always long, my neck was covered and everything. So I would like go out in the streets, I see these women like wearing short sleeves, sitting in like a restaurant, a non-kosher restaurant, and eating, and I'm just like, and they're with a guy, and they're just like, girl and guy hanging out together and wearing short sleeves and eating not kosher food, and I just feel like, I want to do that. And then, but, so like I always had like, and then, but there was always like the broader reasons, of course. That was like, those were like the little things. So eventually, after a while, it kind of became more of a reality until I moved to DC. I knew that I wanted to leave. I knew I wanted to leave LA. That was like the only way that I could do it. That I could, that it wouldn't be so bad. Because you can't really leave the religious community when you're still living in your parents' house. You can't do that because like, it's like, in a way, it's like disrespectful to your parents. I'm not saying in like a judgy way. It's like they will feel disrespected. Like they will get upset, and your whole life is just going to be fights with your parents. So you can't leave the religious community when you're still living in your parents' house. You have to wait until you leave, move out, go to like a different state or something, and then live your own life there. And then like gradually you can introduce your parents to your new life or whatever. So, I wanted to leave earlier. I actually got a scholarship to Berkeley, and I wanted to actually go up to Berkeley, UC Berkeley, but I didn't do that because I also got, like, whatever, I got UCLA, and I'm happy I went to UCLA, but that prolonged the process of leaving. It was like I stayed in LA, and, so then after UCLA, after I graduated college, I moved to DC. By the way, I also didn't tell people that I was in college for the first, 2 years. Because in the frum world, I mean, I don't know about your frum world, but in my frum world, it was going to secular college, oh no, and then when I started doing it, it was already starting to, people were starting to do it. It became it was becoming a little bit. Anyway, I did not party in college. I did not party. I was always studying, and I was such a loser, just studying and all the time, and, I really did not take any time to enjoy myself in a social way, which is part of why I do that so much now. My life right now is party. So anyway, I moved to DC. Totally spontaneous. And then here, that's when I just totally left it. Rip it off like a bandage. And it was so crazy. Eating bacon for the first time. You feel like you feel like there's a fire that's gonna come down and just eat you up. And the first time that I had bacon was I was in Iceland, and I was on this hike. What were we doing? We were climbing glaciers we were climbing glaciers with these blades. So it's glacier climbing. I forgot what it's called. But so it's a big ice mountain, and it's all ice. It's like an ice wall, and you climb the ice wall with your feet and your hands. It's all blades. So you climb the ice wall with blades. It is a lot of fun. It's so much fun. So we were there for 9 hours, and then so we're all starving like crazy, and in the freezing cold. And it's the North Pole almost. And then we go to this, they had this little gas station nearby, so we go there, and they had a bunch of sandwiches. And so I got this chicken sandwich, because even though I wasn't eating kosher anymore, I still didn't feel comfortable to eat the non-kosher foods. So there's so many kosher rules, but I was still eating chicken, even though it wasn't a kosher kosher sandwich. I was still, hey Daniel, I was still eating, Daniel Bostic is watching. I was still eating, by the way, sorry to interrupt, Daniel Bostic and I did a live stream about religion last week or like a week and a half ago. Definitely go and watch it. It was right here in front of this thing. We did a live stream talking about religion. Daniel grew up Christian, I grew up Jewish, and we both grew up very religious, and we talked about our different, and there are a lot of similarities, actually, the way that we grew up. So, anyway, so first time I had bacon. Okay, so we go, and I have this, like, chicken sandwich, and I eat the chicken sandwich thinking that it's good, and I'm like, oh my god, this is, and I'd never had bacon before, even though I had not been religious already for some time. And but I just wasn't brave enough to try bacon. So I'm like eating the chicken sandwich, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is the best chicken sandwich that I ever had in my life. It could be because I was really hungry, but also I was like, this like tastes different. It tastes like a really, 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 really good chicken. And then I look, and then like I'm almost finished the sandwich, and I look in the wrapper, and I'm like, oh great, this is bacon, and then that's it. And then so like I basically, and I was like, oh no, like a fire didn't come down and eat me. I'm still alive, and everything's fine. Whew, I'm still alive. And then from there, I was just like, okay, I got over this fear, and I didn't die. I didn't get swallowed up by the ice and become part of the mountain. And so like that was bacon. The first time I broke Shabbat, it was the first time I broke Shabbat there was a sliding door. In this hotel where I was for like this conference, and because even when I was at conferences, I was still keeping Shabbat. So I figured this is like the perfect time, because no one here is Jewish. They won't recognize me, and they won't know that, nobody knows. So like I can basically do what I want here. So there's like a sliding door in the hotel, and the first time I broke Shabbat was I like walked through this. So because okay, so just a little background. If you are from, which is another way of saying ultra-Orthodox Jewish, you on Shabbat, you cannot, on the Sabbath, you can't walk through a motion detecting door, because that's causing work, like it's causing the door to open up, and you're basically causing like an electric circuit. You can't do that. So you can't cause, like, you can't light anything or okay, it's muktzah, yeah. So so I saw like this automatic doors, and like I could have gone through like a normal door like on the side, but I was like no one's watching, so I could do it. So I basically just like walked through the door, and I did it like 3 times. Like I walked in and out. And I felt so good. I was like, ah! I broke Shabbat 3 times. I walked through the door 3 times. And I'm still alive. I didn't get eaten by a fire yet. And so like every like single thing became like that. It was like every single sin was another and it was like another breaking a barrier, and thinking like, does God hate me now? Does God hate me now? I just ate a huge piece of pork. Does God hate me now? And it's like every little thing. But I'm saying it with a smile. There's like really awful feelings too. Like I have friends who left, and it was, most of the time it's really bad. and you still have like PTSD. I'm not kidding. You still, it's really, really, it's a really difficult experience, especially the more religious that you were, the more strict your family was. And so like, so there's a lot of guilt that comes with it, and you just like constantly walk around feeling like the worst person on earth, and you just feel like you deserve everything bad to happen to you. And so like I remember one time I was walking, you can't wear, if you're from ultra-Orthodox Jewish and you're a woman, you cannot wear pants. Pants are not allowed, and you have to wear tights and shoes, and no cleavage and long sleeves. So I was in DC. I was walking through like an apartment building that was like a lot of Jews live in that apartment building. And so I was like walking up the stairs, and then I see two Hasidic guys who are apparently visiting DC. Two Hasidic guys going up the stairs, and I was wearing pants and like a shirt like this, showing cleavage like that. And so like I'm going up the stairs, and they're like coming downstairs. And so the thing with Hasidic guys, as with a lot of ultra-Orthodox men, like my brother, for example, my brother's not as strict as like a lot of other people, but they won't look at women. They can't look at women because women will cause them to have tempting feelings. So they'll basically like look down. And so I was walking up the stairs, and they were walking down. I was like, oh my God, like they have to see me like being so immodest. And I felt so much guilt. I literally like blurted out, "I'm sorry." But like, see, I'm laughing, but the way I was really serious. I was like, "Oh my God, like I'm sorry." I was apologizing to these two strangers who probably didn't even notice me, didn't even know that I'm Jewish. Why would they know? And that's one example. Like every single thing, you just feel guilty about everything, and you're just walking around feeling like, okay, now is when the fire comes down and burns me. Like now is when my punishment comes, and it just doesn't happen. And then after a while, I guess you get over it. But I'm looking at some of your comments. So yeah, so then there's that. There's like the internal conflicts of leaving the religious community. Faith. What do I believe? I was already mentally checked out way before I stopped practicing. Like, I already just felt like things weren't adding up. Things, it didn't make sense. It was kind of like sheep, like everyone just kind of like repeating each other and like walking in a herd. And a lot of it was focused, the ultra-Orthodox world at least, a lot of it was focused. There was actually no faith, in my opinion. There was no faith. It was in my world. I'm not saying your world, or your world, or your world, or your world. In my world, there was no faith. There was, my family was actually my family was actually very, my family was Sephardic. They were Persian Jews, so they came with a lot of faith. But I just didn't feel like, through the education that I was getting, I just didn't feel like, I felt like there was no faith. It was mostly just trying to keep everything else out, trying to keep your kids like eyes closed so they don't hear anything from outside. They don't get tempted by the secular community. Don't get tempted by the non-Jews. don't go to a church because if you go to church, you might be tempted to follow Jesus. Well, how about, give me faith and don't tell me what not to do? And a lot of people say this, and I feel like everyone kind of agrees with me. Like, everyone in the ultra-Orthodox community would agree with me, too. I feel like it's just like a habit. It's like a bad habit. But I'm reading your comments. So, like, I mean, like, the church thing is, like, an extreme. Like, don't read secular literature. So I was reading Newsweek in high school. I was reading like literally just Newsweek and then Time magazine, and so like there's nothing erotic about it, or there's nothing like sinful about reading a magazine. In the normal person's mind, there's nothing sinful about reading a magazine that's like it's a news magazine. I had to hide it for like all through high school. I was like hiding it under my desk so nobody should know that I'm reading like a secular news magazine. Why, if it's true, if whatever bullshit you're saying is true, why do you have to spend so much time trying to block everything else out? If what you're saying holds so much weight, then why is like your entire existence all about blocking everything else out? No learning anything that is not even sinful, but just is eye-opening in any way. That, like, no talking to anybody that's outside of your tiny little bubble. No, like, reading anything, like, censorship, very censorship heavy. Whatever. So, like, I also just felt like, nothing even to do with whether or not things were true. I just felt there's no way to improve the quality of a person when everything is limited to just a small tiny bubble. Like, you can only marry like a certain type of person. Like, he has to be he has to be like religious a certain type of way. He has to be like not even just any type of frum person. He has to be the kind of frum person who's like learning in yeshiva for 3 years, and after 3 years is gonna like go back to a certain city, X city that you decided, and then help his father with his father's business, but nothing secular. But like it just became to me it became like a superficial world that I didn't care about. I didn't care about anything. Zero passion for anything. Like, it's all about like the next thing, get married, do this, do that. Don't dare do anything that you're passionate about. Just get married at a certain age, have kids. Then your kids get married, and then they have kids, and then you die, and then you're just like, okay, bye. Don't do anything that you're passionate about. Don't think for yourself. Don't believe anything. And there's no God. Your God is your rabbi. That's God. Whatever your rabbi says, do what he says. Because that's the word of God. Yeah. So anyway, the other thing about leaving the religious community that you deal with is that everyone, well, of course it's really hard when you first leave. It's really, really, really hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, it's like when I was from, they would tell us like, all these things happen when you leave the frum community. you end up on drugs, you end up doing bad things, you end up living like a crazy lifestyle, people end up killing themselves, ending up in jail. Like, all these bad things happen to you when you leave the like, from community. And so, like, they're actually right. Like, when you leave, you are left with, like, a vacuum. So you do kind of, like, you really do end up, like, having a crazy time in a bad way. Like, I had a really crazy time when I first left. I'm not even going to say everything because I want to leave it for, like, later when I feel more comfortable talking about it, because I still actually don't feel comfortable talking about a lot of stuff. But I'll tell you later. So, like, the beginning is really hard, and, like, anyone who says it's not hard is probably just saying that to shut their parents up, because their parents are on their case about leaving the religious community. So when you leave the religious community, it's really hard. The hardest thing is that you're basically totally alone, because you don't have friends outside of the religious community. Everyone that you know is inside the religious community, but everyone inside does not think that you should be outside. So everyone inside thinks that you are crazy, gone out of your mind. And by the way, like, crazy, another thing about the Frum community, crazy is, like, it's so, like, taboo. You know, don't go to a therapist because the neighbor will find out that you went to see a therapist, and that means that you have probably a mental disorder, and that means that no one's gonna marry you, because then your children might have mental disorders, and then your in-laws will find out about it, and then no one's gonna marry your siblings, or your cousins probably, or maybe even your second cousins, because like, you know, so even though, like, a lot of these people desperately need therapy and get diagnosed for shit. Okay. Someone asked, why did you go fully off of Derech instead of modern Orthodox? Because, you know, a lot of people are modern Orthodox. Most of these people that you see in the media who are Orthodox, most of them are modern Orthodox, because they wouldn't be in secular media if they were Frum. Some people are, but those people are trailblazers. They're special. Most people who are in the media who are Orthodox are modern Orthodox. So why did I leave completely? Why did I leave this all completely instead of just leaving the Frum community and becoming modern Orthodox? The reason is because I just really didn't take any other part. I just didn't take any of it seriously. Like, to me, being Frum is religious, and being modern Orthodox is just, like, pretend being religious, and being Reform and conservative and all this other shit is all pretend. That was how I felt. Like, someone actually, I actually met someone who put it really, who said it really, F-R-U-M, like David Frum, but not David Frum. Frum, it's another way of saying, like, ultra-Orthodox Jewish. Okay, so, what was I saying? I don't remember. Actually really forgot what I was saying because one of you distracted me. But I actually really forgot what I was saying. So so you leave the oh yeah. Okay. So I met this guy. this guy called himself a non-observant Orthodox Jew. Is that crazy? He called himself non-observant Orthodox Jew. He didn't call himself a conservative, like someone who became Orthodox and then became conservative or Reformed, because basically conservative and Reformed Jews are not Orthodox, or not like very religious compared to, I mean, I don't know, whatever, I can't say it for you guys, but this guy, the reason why he says I'm a non-observant Orthodox Jew is because, by the way, like, me saying conservative and Reform are not religious enough, or not religious, that's an example of it. That's, like, in my mind, being religious was being frum, so anyone else, like any other sect of Judaism, is just a joke to me, because, like, if I was going to be religious, I would have been frum. That's, like, to me, that's what being religious is. Everything else is a joke. So, the guy who says that he's a non-observant Orthodox Jew is essentially saying, like, if he were observant, he would have been an Orthodox. He would have been Orthodox, but he's not observant. Yeah. So the worst part is the guilt. Just walking around with guilt and basically wanting to die. Like, when they say, like, you just want to kill yourself, like, a lot of people are like that. A lot of people leave and they're just, like, they just walk around, like, with self-loathing. Like, I'm so disgusting. I left. You know, I'm a sinner now. I'm, like, the lowest of the low. Everyone is suffering because of me. My family's suffering because of me. My family, no one's marrying my siblings because of me. And, like, you know, I've alienated my friends, my family. I've disappointed my teachers. And so you're just, like, walking around, so much guilt all the time. And so it becomes like this, it really affects your personality in a bad way. Okay. So it really affects your personality in a bad way, and then, and every time you talk to anyone in the frum community, it's like, they're like, to them, it's like you died, and they're trying to, like, help you come back to life. And so, like, it all comes from, like, a really good place, but it just makes you feel like absolute shit. So, like, you know, you talk to a family member, for instance, and they're trying to be as nice as possible, and they're like, yeah, like, you know, we're praying for you every day, like, you know, basically all of us family, we basically get together, like, every afternoon to, like, you know, like a Tehillim gathering. We just, like, sit around in a circle and we pray for you, and like, you know, because we love you so much, and like, you know, like, the amount of mourning and prayers and mourning and just, like, devastation that you cause by leaving the religious community is enough to make you want to, like, just disappear because of the insane amount of guilt that you feel. So the number one thing to avoid is, like, giving into that guilt, because it's basically a bunch of people, like, mourning for you for for enjoying yourself and having your own life, which, I mean, now that I've gotten over the hard part, I'm like, you know, it just gets better every year. Every year I'm doing all these things that I never expected that I'd be doing, like things that I'm passionate about, things that I believe in, things that I enjoy. I'm talking to people that are interesting and new. I'm doing these live streams, interviewing the cool people, and so like this is what this is meaning to me. This is like what's important. I don't think the other stuff is important. Sorry. Okay. People keep asking me like, so are you atheist? No, I'm not an atheist. Everyone's really first of all, why does everyone hate atheists? Atheism is just, it's like another religion, basically. People hate atheists so much because, like, being an atheist means that you don't have a religion. I feel like everyone kind of, you know, the only people that aren't religious are people who are agnostic, which means people who don't know what they are, because those people are just still searching, constantly just searching and searching and searching and trying to figure out and searching for the truth. And honestly, like, to me, even though being agnostic is like, you know, being agnostic is such a state of confusion and like upheaval, and you're just it's not an ideal state of mind. Being an agnostic, to me, agnostics are the people who bring the truth. Like, agnostics are the people who are constantly self-checking. They're constantly, like, you know, criticizing and evaluating, and searching for the truth instead of having just settled on one thing that makes you feel comfortable. So, and not that it's better either. Like, you know, there's so many great, like, I always said, I mean, now I don't wish it, but I used to say, like, when I was still in that community, I was like, I just wish that I wanted this. Like, I just wish that I believed in all of this and that this was fine and I was cool with it, and I wish that I believed this, because it would have made my life so much easier. I wouldn't have had to go through this whole crazy thing and trying to get out. But now I'm fine. But that's a state of agnosticism. That's being an agnostic. That's like, that means that you're, and people think of agnostic as like a different religion. If you are confused about your religion, you're an agnostic. Paul Nye says, I've never met a happy agnostic. That's a really good point. Agnosticism basically means confusion. That means that you're confused. So, your comments are, you're all crazy. Okay, so why would you want to be confused? Being confused is not a good state of mind, and you can't, like, live a normal life if you're just confused all the time and you have no idea, you've never settled on anything. You're just like a relativist. You're walking around with, like, you know, this could be true, but this could also be true, and that could be true, and, you know, everything could be true, but that could also not be true. And so, like, there's no reality in your mind. You're just living in this, like, awful state of being that you don't even know if it's real because it could be an illusion. But at the same time, like, these people are the people who ironically help you find your truth, because they're constantly checking. Jeffrey says, not confused, open to possibilities. Okay, that's another way to look at it. Like, you know, agnostics, with all this it's very uncomfortable. But at the same time, like, these people are also helping us find our truth. Like, and I think that everyone should have a little bit of agnosticism in them. Like, always be checking, and I feel like we've come to this state where we've come to this place of like, oh well, agnosticism is like it's like its own separate thing, but I think everyone should have a little bit of agnosticism in them. Refocus Zone says, I agree that atheism is a religion, but atheists get really angry when they hear it. So every religion, like, people dunk on atheists because atheists are like, you know, I'm not religious, I'm just stating facts. This is all bullshit. I'm just stating a fact. You're the religious one. I'm not religious. You are the one who's part of a religious cult. So, like, that's why people don't like atheists. But religious people do it too. But actually, atheists do it the worst. Okay, fine. Atheists do it the worst. But don't hate on atheists because really, atheists are just like you. So, this is not a recording. Why are you saying this is a recording? Fardi Anu says, wasn't your last name Omni? Why is it Anu now? Okay, so Fardi says, no one is actually an agnostic. Right? I guess we all have our biases, so we're not perfectly self-checked. Arsetto says, it's true, my time on campus, I ended up helping more people find their religion and happiness, but I could never find it. Sometimes I wish I could just conform and believe. I feel you. Sometimes I wish I could just conform and believe. That's like a really good... That's exactly how I felt. Like, I just wish I could conform and believe. And I feel like once you just allow yourself to just not believe anything and just like believe whatever you feel like believing, that's actually when you get closer to actually believing something, because and I actually heard this from someone. It was like, the only way to it's basically what I just said. Like, the only way to like really believe in something is to just drop everything, like drop all notions of what you think you need to believe, and then it just happens. Eventually, you start to believe things. Wow, people, you know, atheism is like the worst, the most hated religion in the United States. Like, there is actually a list. I think the most loved is like, I don't remember. I think it's like Jews and Catholics at the top, and then like atheists and Muslims, and then like Mormons. I don't know. By the way, Mormons are so cool. Like, I don't know why people give them so much shit. Okay, so people, I don't speak Pashto, I speak Farsi. Persian Jews do exist. Most Persian Jews are not from, like, my family. And almost all of them, most of them were not like that, even back in Iran. Most from Persians, like my parents, became from as they were, when they came to the United States, or when they were like in Europe, like adopted by these ultra-Orthodox Jews in Europe, who took them in and took care of them, and so that they can get their visas to get to the United States. Like, that's when a lot of these Persian Jews became from, because it wasn't really like that in Iran. I do not speak Swahili. Alta Michelle says Catholics are the most smeared in the world, especially America. Catholics, I feel like there's something about Catholics that really, really remind me of the Frum community, like, a lot. And not in a good or bad way. It's just like there's something about the personalities. Like, I feel like I connect with Catholics in a special way because they remind me of my old community. And there's like a personality that goes with it. Like, there's a difference between, anyway. Okay, I'm reading your comments, your questions. Eli says, what one should do is wrestle with their beliefs. You have to constantly wrestle with your beliefs to know exactly why you believe what you believe. That doesn't mean you have to stop believing. Right. You don't have to stop believing, but I just feel like, for me at least, I just never believed. So I didn't have to, like, stop believing anything. It was literally just, like, I just had to stop putting on a show. Because I just felt like I was living, like, a fake lie for my family. Just so my family should be happy. And when you do things just so your family should be happy, you end up not only resenting your family, but you end up trashing your life for your family's sake. And if they're if they are a good family, then they won't want you to trash your life for them. And if they are the type of people that want you to trash their life for their sake, then they're not worth trashing your life for. Okay? So, like, I see this all the time where, like, you know, especially in the religious community, like, parents will place religion over, like, the happiness of their child. And I mean, I think that's, like, where you get it wrong. Like, when it's like, you know, you're either religious or you're out of the house, I'm kicking you out or whatever. Okay, just reading someone's weird comment. So it's like, when, you know, you're either religious or I'm kicking you out of the house, then, like, what kind of religion is that anyway? Like, if your religion is telling you that, you know, like, your child's, you know, you pick the religion over your child. I mean, I guess if, you know, I don't know. If religion is telling you, like, in order to be part of this religion, you have to just, like, totally shut everything else out. You have to totally just not read any sort of literature that might be informative or enlightening in any sort of way. That's not, like, a religion that's worth anything. That's kind of garbage because the whole point of a religion apparently is to be a better person, to grow. And yeah, none of it was making me grow. And just when I, you know, watching other people, I just felt like it was just making people dumber and, like, less mannered and unhealthy mentally because people weren't going to therapy. And just everything bad. It was just making people worse. And it's like, unless you inherently came from, like, unless you were already, like, you were already rich, you were already, like, well-mannered, you're already, like, knew everything somehow from somewhere, and you were already, like, totally mentally healthy before, and so was all your family. Unless, like, you already came with all of that, you're not gonna get it from being from. It's impossible. So, Felix says everyone should go watch the baptism episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. All right. I'm first, actually. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the South Park episode of the Tacky Cheap Persians, because that sounds really interesting. Arshedo says, funny, I have a half Iranian friend who, instead of her, it was her mother that was excommunicated from a family. I don't know what kind of Jew she was, however, kind of similar story. Yeah, it's like, when you excommunicate your kid for, like, not being the type of religious that you want, it's just, you know, you've done them a favor by keeping them away from you, because it's like, you're just not fit to be a parent. Frankly, see, I do have beliefs. I'm not, like, a total just, you know, like, that's the thing, like, just because I don't have, like, a belief system that's, like, you know, according to, like, some doctrine that somebody made, and just because I'm not a sheep, it doesn't mean that I don't have, like, beliefs that probably align with those people, and also align with those people, and also align with you, and that, whatever. So, like, for me, the most important thing is, just, like, a total state of honesty, and, the ability to question as much as possible, and ask questions, and learn, expose yourself as much as possible, which is really the opposite of frum community. The frum, and when I say frum, I mean my frum. I don't know about your frum. My frum world was all about not introducing anything new, not bringing in anything that was in any way, like, informative outside of that world, and in any way, like, threatening to the doctrine. And it's like, that's, to me, the opposite of what my whole ideology is. Like, that's, like, literally the opposite of what I believe. Whatever that is, I believe the opposite. Like, to me, I just think that it's really important to be constantly questioning and having, and being, just being honest, and, like, being yourself 100%, and, just whatever. So, truth and faith, says Alta Michelle. And also, like, family, friends, just, like, your mental health. I don't know. Mental health is really important. Stephanie Black says, hey, Steph. It's good to see you. Craziest, wildest thing that I've learned since leaving. So, the craziest, wildest thing, like, oh my god, so many crazy things, like, I don't know. So, like, when I first left, Steph Black, by the way, for those of you who weren't here Monday night, go back and watch my Monday night live stream with Steph Black. We had an awesome time. She's the first and last girl who's ever been on my stream. Wow, I need to find girls. She's the first and last girl who's ever been on my stream, and so we had a really, like, unique live stream, because it was like a chat, like having a chat with your girlfriend, which is, like, you know, with guys it's so different, because they're, like, more, you know, here it is, here's my information, chop chop. And having a chat with your girlfriend is, like, you get to, like, make fun of stuff, and it's kind of fun. So anyway, go back and watch my Monday night live stream with Steph Black. I think the name was, like, the most bananas effing coming out story ever. Sorry. So the craziest thing that I learned ever since leaving. So there's so many crazy things that I learned. Mostly just being exposed to different things. and being like, oh yeah, like, this wasn't true the way I learned it, that wasn't true the way I learned it, that wasn't true. And I feel like it's like that for everybody, not necessarily religious people. It's kind of like everyone's like that. You know, you grow up with, like, a certain way that you believe. You grow up with, you know, thinking that Alice in Wonderland is, like, a children's story, and then you're an adult, and you realize that the whole Alice in Wonderland story is a trippy story about, like, someone who goes down, like, a figurative rabbit hole, which is just totally goes on drugs and loses their mind. So when I was frum, I always thought of frum people as, like, as non-Jewish people or non-Orthodox people as, like, just dirty, animalistic, like, sexual creatures who are just having sex all the time. Just crazy, and just, like, the most just insane, like, just animals, and who just have, like, zero self-control or standards or morals or anything. So then I left, and I was just like, I really started going crazy. I was just like, oh my god, like, I have to, like, make out with as many people as possible. Men, women, like, whatever, wherever I am. And just went crazy. And then I realized, like, the more things happened, the more I realized, like, it's not actually like this in the secular world. In the secular world, people are not having sex all the time. They're not having sex with a million partners. They're not cheating all the time. They're not animalistic in any way. And so, like, my whole worldview of when you leave the frum community, then you become a crazy sex animal, that was not necessary or true. Like, in fact, I met so many prudes in the secular community that I, right now, feel like I feel like I don't even want to go into this too much, but the thing I realized leaving the frum community was that the secular community is, like, not necessarily any less conservative, if that makes sense. Conservative lifestyle, not conservative politically. You know, like, they're not necessarily going to be crazy and having sex and doing crazy things. And, you know, like, that whole idea was just total bullshit. And I guess trying to deter you from leaving. There's so many different things to try and deter you from leaving. Yeah. Another thing, like, I don't know, some of these things are, like, from when I was little. Like, you know, if you do this, then God will give you this. If you are, you know, like, if you do a mitzvah, then God will give you, like, all this great stuff, and he'll give you, like, you know, like, I remember my dad telling, was it my dad? It was like, if the mommy and daddy are good, and they do, like, they're good, and they daven, they pray, then God will give them a baby. And I remember thinking, like, but God gives babies to non-Jews too, and non-religious people too. God gives them all babies. Why do I have to be living this standard that nobody else is living? Like, so God is specifically not going to give me a baby if I don't do it, while he's going to give everybody else a baby? Or, like, if I don't, am I gonna, like, not get these good things in life? It really just, even when I was little, I was thinking, like, it really feels like a way of manipulating people and getting them to do things that, and trying to make them believe that outside of this world, there's nothing. They don't enjoy it. They don't have it. Outside of this world, men and women cannot be in a loyal relationship. It's impossible. When I left, I realized, like, wow, in fact, there are some really, really amazing relationships outside of here, and they're very, very loyal to each other, and they're not having sex with a million people. Yeah, like, what else? You know, a lot of it is money. And when I say this, people are like, you're being anti-Semitic. And it's like, just because I said money, it has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with religion. All religions will do this, especially very, very pious religions, like very hardcore. And so, like, you know, the whole idea of you need to, like, I don't know. Religion is a business. And I'm not even going to go into it, because I just feel like you all know what I mean and what I'm talking about. Everybody knows. Every religious person knows. Every non-religious person knows. Like, everybody knows it. And so, like, religion is a business. And sometimes when religion is a business, there's just a lot of ability to abuse it. So yeah, that's also, I just felt like there's just a ton of manipulation and abuse happening, and zero checking, because you can't say anything negative about anyone in the Orthodox, about anyone in the frum world. You can't say anything negative about them to anyone outside of it. You can't even go to the authorities to say anything negative about someone in that means that if someone you know, hypothetically speaking, if some religious leader were to come and molest your child, you will first go to and different people will do different things. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will go to the police, but a lot of people won't, because there's a sense of you don't take things outside of this religious community. You know, no one should know, no one else should know. And it's like, so there's this, it's like this, it really is abuse, because people do take a lot of abuse. People do take a lot of abuse that is really just meant to keep people inside the religion. Like, there's so much. It's kind of like this is the analogy I'll give. Like, it's like when you're in a relationship with someone, and the entire relationship is the other person trying to stop you from talking to anybody else. But you don't actually have a relationship with them. You don't actually communicate or enjoy yourselves or go places or, like, hang out or touch each other or anything. Like, the whole relationship is just trying to stop the other person from talking to anybody else. And that's not a relationship. And so, like, it's kind of the same thing with religion. Like, the whole if the whole religion is all about trying to stop the people practicing the religion, is trying to stop them from like seeing anything else or doing anything else or hearing anything else or talking to anybody else, that's the whole point of the religion. And it's not matched up in any way by like a real substantive faith that is real and that is not there just to fill the space, then there's literally no point of your stupid religion. And the same way as in a relationship, the same way as in a relationship, sorry, I keep getting distracted by the comments. The same way as like a healthy relationship will not even focus on those things. In a healthy relationship, the partners are not even going to be looking at the other people to be like, oh no, are you talking to that person or that person? It happens sometimes. Like, it happens, in every healthy couple it happens, you know what I mean? But, like, it doesn't happen regularly. And, you know what I mean? Like, a healthy relationship, doesn't really come up because it's not relevant. Because the whole point of the relationship is that, like, is you have a relationship with the other person. And that's going to be the thing that's going to stop you from going and talking to anyone else, because you have like an actual relationship. And of course, there are boundaries in your relationship. You have a commitment to each other, so you're not like just like, oh, okay, well, right now I feel happy with you, but then tomorrow I might go and hang out with Sally and then Freddie. And so you do have like a commitment to each other. You do have like a religion, right? But the reason why you're there is not so that you shouldn't talk to Sally or Freddie. The reason why you're there is so that I can have a relationship with you. So yeah, that's really that's actually probably the main reason. Is that the main reason? I feel like it's all connected, and it's all really connected. It's like the faith and this and that. It's like, it's all like really connected. And I feel like that's the main reason why a lot of people leave the religious community, any religious community, and you can really, really compare it to a relationship. It's like, why does someone leave a relationship? It's like the same thing. And, yeah, and and you can't talk about it because like you can't like offend anyone else. And but you know what, another thing I realized is like when I first left, I was constantly like, talking down about the religious community, and like, I'd be like, I don't want to be around these people because then they're gonna judge me, and I don't want to be around it. And like, so my sister, who's very religious, I talk to my sister like almost every day. My sister would get annoyed at me, and she'd be like, you're doing the same exact thing. Like, you're like acting like you're the one who's like accepting and whatever and non-judgmental, but the entire time you're just like, oh no, I can't talk to these people. So when you get to a point, and I don't even feel like I feel like I could be a lot better at this. When you get to a point where like you're not doing that anymore, you're just comfortable with yourself and don't worry about other people's judgment, then other people will do the same thing to you, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be accepted, whether or not you're religious, and there isn't everyone kind of has like the same fears, and so like people aren't necessarily very few people are actually judging you. And that's what I have to tell myself, because that's something that I that's like another thing that I always keep realizing is like very few people are actually judging. Most people just want to be accepted themselves. They don't want you to be like, oh no, you're religious, so I don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay. Someone says it's great that you're still close to your family, even though you're not from anymore. Yeah, I'm still very close with my family, especially my sister. I talk to my sister almost every day, and I recently went to Israel and visited her and her family and hung out with her little baby, and they're so cute. And I dressed very modestly while I was there. And I sent pictures to my parents, and they were so proud. Let's see. Mike Doyle says, family tradition, you leave religion means leave your family. Yeah, that's like another thing. It's like that, for me, my dream, it's never gonna happen, but my dream is that, like, I could live fully, like, not religious, and, I don't know if it could happen, but I just feel like it's really not compatible. It just doesn't make sense. Like, for me to be able to live, like, my fully irreligious self, and just, but, like, totally still be close with the family, and still do everything, like, normal, I mean, I am still very close with the family, but it's not the same. Like, you can't do, like, when I go and visit my siblings in Jerusalem, I dress a certain way, and I still have to, like, conform to that world while I'm there, even though they know that I'm not religious anymore, but, like, I'm still gonna be totally ruining, I'm gonna be, like, totally destroying the bubble if I, like, dress however I dress here in DC. So, it's still never gonna be the same. And so, like, I wish that I could just be myself and hang out with my family like regular, but it's not that world. And someone's like, that's out of respect. Well, out of respect, all my family members could just dress like me. No, it's not like that. It's not, I don't feel like, I feel like the ideal thing is that everyone can just, the ideal thing for me is that I could just, like, but whatever. It's fine. A lot of people just still aren't comfortable with the idea of kids having their own lives and their own brains, but it's fine. I still have, like, a good relationship with my family. It's a little bit weird with, like, some of my family members, because they're just, like, every time I talk to them, they're just like, oh, I'm praying for you, and please be religious again. And it's like, no, I just want to have a relationship with you. That's, like, just me and you. Nothing to do with that. But in general, I am still very close with my family, and I feel very lucky because a lot of other people in my position would have been totally disowned. And I still get to go, like, it's so funny because I was reading Leah Vincent. She also grew up very yeshivish, actually, in Philadelphia, and she wrote a book called Cut Me Loose. It was, so in the book, she talks about how, like, she was, like, kind of disowned by her family, and then when she went back to be with her family, like, to visit her family, her parents were, like, kind of weird. Like, they didn't want her, like, eating from the dishes, and, like, touching, like, her saliva and stuff like that. I guess because they felt like now that she's not religious anymore, she's, like, impure, like, she probably has, like, an STD or something, I don't know. So there is a sense of, like, you know, when you're religious, like, oh no, like, that person is coming in with all their impurities, and so, like, it was like that with their actual daughter. I am very lucky that my family is not like that with me. My family has still been treating me like I'm pure. Like a pure person that can still eat off their dishes and won't make it, like, not kosher by eating off their dishes. So I guess the conclusion of this stream, which went on for an hour and a half, the conclusion of this stream is, if you are ever leaving the religious community, stay close with your family. And I just feel like it just makes it a lot easier, and, like, eventually, like, your family kind of learns to grow with you, and it's like, it's really hard, but, like, it has to happen at some point as part of growing. And it's like, your family just, it's like growing teeth, and it really, really hurts and everything, but, like, your family will just eventually, you know. It took so much work for me to, like, convince my family that I'm not religious. Like, I would be like, no, Mom, like, I'm not religious. And she would be like, oh, so you're not going to wear tights anymore? And it's like, no, I'm not religious. And she's like, oh, so you're going to not wear long sleeves anymore? And it's like, no, Mom, like, I'm not religious at all. Oh, so you're going to modern Orthodox shul now? It's like, my parents did not accept that I was, like, not religious. In their mind, not religious meant that, like, totally not religious meant that I was wearing pants. Which is also already, you know, for them it's a lot. For them it's already not religious. It is not religious, but it's like, Shabbat and kosher? Like, that's like, you know, you don't keep Shabbat, you don't keep kosher. Like, just get the fuck out of here. That's, So anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah, if you're leaving the if you're leaving any sort of religious community, just know that you can still have a very close relationship with your family, and even if they are just, like, really, really intolerant, you can't, like, listen to that voice. You have to just, like, in your mind be like, well, I love them, and that's all that matters. And you just keep being yourself, and eventually they always come around. If your parents aren't coming around, then it means that you didn't try hard enough, because, like, biologically your parents are like made to, your parents are always going to be more attached to you emotionally than you're attached to them. So, like, I feel like there's a silver lining at the end of it. Okay. So, everyone, have a good night. I have not changed a microphone. I don't even have a microphone on this because this is just my phone. But Pat says not necessarily with family. I mean, yeah, some families are hardcore. There's nothing you can do about it. But, like, you just gotta be true to yourself. You know, just love yourself. Be your own parent. Be a parent to yourself. And, like, usually parents, if you really try and you're just, like, yourself the whole time, like, eventually, I guess, they start to get used to it. But they're never gonna be good with you. I mean, like, I'm totally just talking out of my